Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and we're going to dive into that press conference that our general manager, Adam Peters, and our assistant general manager, Lance Newmark, had yesterday. They said a lot of very interesting things. Adam Peters alluded to the fact that they're not taking a quarterback that they don't believe can start day one with a second overall pick. He also said that Washington is really close to which quarterback they prefer right now, so they probably already have their answer. And he already said that Washington will not trade back in the draft, or said that it's highly unlikely. And we're going to go through his entire press conference, what he and Lance Newmark both said. And then also at the end, we got to talk about how the Washington Commanders just got back a banned player. A lot of y'all may have forgotten about him. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Make sure you follow all of the social media outlets, because I post things on there that I don't even necessarily post on the YouTube. So that's Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of those, man. I really appreciate y'all. Stay tuned. And again, starting today, we're coming with 2-3 videos a day. We're going to start working on film sessions and all of that. Go become a channel member, because channel members will get the full versions of the film sessions. Everybody else will get like a 5 to 10 minute quick one. So make sure you stay tuned. I'm working on a mock draft. I'm going to do a call-in show live stream soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe within the next couple of days, definitely before the draft happens, for y'all to call in and voice your opinions, ask whatever questions you may have for me, or also tell the world what preferences you have in the draft, which quarterback you prefer. Do you want to trade up back into the first round for a tackle? Who are some of your sleepers in the draft that you're looking forward to? I'm gonna give y'all the floor to talk about all of that and more, but of course, let's go ahead and focus on this video. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so Commanders general manager Adam Peters and assistant general manager Lance Newmark addressed the media yesterday, which was 7 days before the draft. Now today, Friday, April 19th, we're 6 days until the draft, just to give you that heads up. And first of all, Adam Peters opened his press conference by thanking literally every person in the meeting that he possibly could, including the team's executive chef, Connor McGuire. He said, quote, "We're going to do way better than that D+. I guarantee you that," unquote. And he's basically alluding to the whole NFLPA survey situation and how many bad grades we got. And like I told y'all in another video from days ago, I bet my life savings we will not be dead last in that NFLPA player survey of best free agency landing spots again. I guarantee you that Adam Peters and Josh Harris are both teaming up to make sure we put an end to that. Training staff, cooks, chefs, rehab, how the team treats players, all of that is about to do a complete 180 from how Dan Snyder was running things. And then he also went on to praise the entire front office, saying that they, quote, bust their humps, unquote. And then he shouted out every scout by name. That's really cool, dog, to me. Like, those guys rarely get any recognition, and that's really cool that a former scout himself, and Adam Peters, that's the way he got to where he is right now. He came through the scouting route. So that's really cool that Adam Peters took time out of his press conference to shout those guys out before he even discussed anything else, before he answered any questions, before he gave us any opinions. He made sure he shouted out so many people. And this is just also another way that the Commanders are doing things differently from a lot of the rest of the NFL. Not the entire NFL, but at least several teams. Most general managers don't just start off their press conference by name dropping every scout in the organization. That's not typical. And I love it. I love the fact that we just keep things fresh, unconventional, unpredictable. I absolutely love it. And again, with him being a scout himself, shouting out all of the scouts like that is absolutely amazing. I thought that was a beautiful way to start the press conference. He did not have to do that. And shouts out to Zach Selby, because I completely agree. I feel like the way that he started that press conference is a reminder of the collaborative approach that Peters wants to prop up, and that several people besides Peters and Quinn contribute to deciding on what we do, not only with the second overall pick, but just in general for this franchise. I absolutely love it, man. I really do. I also liked how Lance Newmark wasn't only just there as a face and a presence, because he was also very involved in this press conference, along with giving the scouts some shine. Adam Peters also allowed his assistant general manager to shine and not basically be stuck under his shadow. So Adam Peters went into this press conference yesterday with the clear mission, I'm going to make sure everybody that deserves some shine is going to get some shine. And I'm not just going to come out here as a general manager by myself and handle this press conference. Not only am I going to bring my assistant general manager with me, but I'm going to make sure he contributes to the discussion and gives some of his opinions, let his voice be heard, let all of the cameras and social medias and every outlet see his face, see his voice and everything like that. I love it, man. A lot of people may try to hog their guys. Adam Peters is like, nah, man, these guys are great. Look at them. And if they end up leaving, so be it. But I want to make sure these guys get their due recognition. Now, moving on, when talking about whether or not they've settled on a quarterback already, he said, quote, "We're really close to making a decision. Still more steps in the process. We have to debrief on the top 30 visits. They have to have a medical meeting. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters will huddle up and make a decision next week. Don't feel rushed, but good idea by next week." And that makes a lot of sense. Mike Garafolo even pointed out the fact that teams usually say they lock in on their pick early draft week. Adam Peters is holding to that timeline as well as what it looks like right now. Again, the draft is Thursday. Maybe they'll officially make their decision as of Monday. And then maybe, just maybe, we can start to believe leaks as of Monday that are coming out and different opinions, different reports and things like that. Also thought that it was very interesting that Adam Peters also said, quote, "There's a lot of pressure. It's a great responsibility. We take this very seriously. They've been working tirelessly." When talking about feeling the heat to get the number 2 overall pick right, he continued to say, "There is pressure. That's what we signed up for." And basically, he said that he wants to nail the pick, not only just because that's what he's supposed to do, but he said that he's basically putting this on the staff. He's doing this for the city. He wants everybody to be happy with the pick. He actually dove deep into that. He said, quote, "There's a lot of pressure and it's a great responsibility and we want to do this for the fan base," unquote. So maybe it's a small factor into the decision, a very, very small factor. Maybe what fans think have the slightest effect on the pick, but I highly doubt that it will affect it enough to basically be a tiebreaker or anything like that. But it does sound nice to say out loud that he's considering the fan base when it comes to this pick, but I'm pretty sure that has absolutely nothing to do with it, if anything at all. And as far as what they're looking for in a quarterback, this was very interesting because Peter said one thing that we aren't talking about that is tangible on the field is leadership. And then Lance Newmark, the assistant general manager, said a core trait is work ethic, tremendous inner belief in himself, and ability to unify people and create a common belief. They're looking for all of that in a quarterback. Do either of those guys have that? Because Adam Peters has been saying for a couple of months now that it's a lot of off the field things that he's looking for in a quarterback. He said the interviews in person were going to matter a lot. Who they are as a person, leadership, things like that are going to matter mightily in which quarterback they pick. And so we'll see. It's not just the tape. We could debate here and there about who has the better tape, who's the better NFL projection and things like that. But Adam Peters and these guys get to see these guys behind the scenes in a way that us fans can't. And that is going to probably play a large role in who they pick. Also, when Adam Peters was talking to reporters yesterday, he said, quote, "We feel great about staying at number 2. Don't see a lot of scenarios where we trade down." That's very notable. I love to hear it personally. Do your due diligence and all of that type of stuff. But ultimately, stay at number 2 and take your favorite quarterback there. Don't even risk it. And going back to the fact that they are close to who they want most in the draft, that's even more of a reason that they wouldn't want to trade back. They are probably already getting really close to who they want, and they're probably even starting to get a little attached to that guy. Not even just emotionally, but envisioning a future with them and already planning on how to get the most out of that quarterback schematically even. And also how they will adjust their picks rounds 2 through 7 around that quarterback. Because if you get a guy like Drake May, maybe you want more route runners that can get open in the intermediate, in the middle of the field and things like that. But if you take Jayden Daniels, maybe you're looking for guys that are better at catching the ball deep down the field, tracking it down from behind and things like that. So whichever quarterback you take definitely affects who you end up getting for the rest of your picks in the draft. And so maybe they already have a guy in mind there, and they're already starting to get attached to that guy by planning around him in different ways, again, schematically from the offense that they may want to run. Do they want to do more read option? Do they want to attack the ball deep down the field more often? And then also, who are we going to get in the rest of the draft based on the quarterback that we take second overall? So after you get that attached to a player, they will more than likely not even risk trading back and just even chance not getting that guy. Even if there is intel out there from other teams that, yeah, maybe you can still trade back and get them, I'm pretty sure the Commanders may not risk it. If they've truly fallen in love with the guy that they prefer, they may not even take that chance, in my personal opinion. Also, Grant Paulson brings up a great point. He said, quote, I don't completely believe the Commanders don't know who they will draft with the second overall pick as of right now, but there's a semantics element to it. The guy they're leaning toward now will almost certainly be the guy they draft in 7 days. Have they had a final meeting where they put it in Sharpie? Probably not. But is anything changing right now? Also, no. And I do agree. I feel like at this point, they probably already have a great idea of who they want. Maybe they officially come together, have that meeting after they got the medicals done last night. They had to go over medicals. Again, they had the top 30 visits with everybody coming at the same time, top golf, individual meetings and things like that. But now they got to take time to actually sit down, review their notes and opinions and go back and forth with each other, maybe even debate, share notes, share every thoughts and things like that, and then actually come to a conclusion. And I feel like they're probably very close to the guy, and it's probably not even going to take until Monday for them to know who they want. And then from there, the whole challenge is just keeping it in-house. But like I've already talked about in another video, I know we don't want things to leak from this organization and things like that, but when we have the second overall pick, how much could a leak potentially hurt us? I mean, of course, I want us to run this franchise like professionals. I love how nothing is getting out from Adam Peters and company. And there was even a report in the video that I gave y'all yesterday where somebody said that even people within the building don't exactly know what Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are thinking right now. It's like certain levels of clearance right now. Only the people that need to know with a lot of these things, specifically the number 2 overall pick. But at the end of the day, man, what does it hurt us? Like, if we were to come out and say today, we're taking Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye second overall, just go ahead and declare it. What does it hurt? What does it stop? Nobody can get in front of us to take them. Caleb Williams, we know, is going number 1 overall. You automatically just cancel out the Bears and Caleb Williams. Technically, we have really, in essence, the number 1 overall pick. The draft really starts with us. And if we prefer Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye, nobody can stop us from getting either one of them. So I like the fact, again, that we're not letting things leak out. But what does it really hurt? So I guess they could, going back to my main point, already know who they want, and they could be focusing on not letting other people find out. But honestly, what does it really hurt at this point? Also, Adam Peters was also asked if he had a favorite quarterback to watch this college season before he even got the GM job with the Commanders. He said, quote, before I took this job, we weren't really scouting top of the draft quarterbacks really hard. In our job, you have to really prioritize your time. Spending a ton of time on the first round quarterbacks wasn't something I really did. Didn't dig into this group of guys, really came in with a clean slate, unquote. So basically all of that talk that Drake Maye is up there with Caleb Williams before this season even started, Adam Peters is completely basically ignorant to that, or at least he's claiming that he is. And that makes sense too, because he was just the assistant general manager for the 49ers going into this season. He probably had no idea that he would be the general manager for the Commanders. I mean, first of all, this time last year, we didn't know that we would necessarily even need a quarterback. I believe that Sam Howell could be a guy. So that's first of all. And then from the 49ers perspective, again, he didn't know that he would be the general manager of a team that needed a quarterback, specifically the Commanders, after trading away Sam Howell and things like that. He was focused on, okay, we already have Brock Purdy. How can we build around Brock Purdy? And again, if you're using your time wisely, it's not like he's watching Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, and Caleb Williams tape going into the 2023 season, because he's focused on pretty much every position group other than quarterback at this point going into that season. So I believe him when he says that, but of course I'm pretty sure he's heard the noise that, going into the season, Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, who's going to be quarterback 1 and things like that. But he's basically letting us know that, hey man, I don't care about all of that noise. I came into this evaluation process after I became the Commanders GM with no pre-assumed notions and thoughts from other people's opinions and things like that. I came in with a clean slate, and we started from scratch, and we evaluated these guys from ground zero as of just a few months ago. And I'm not mad at that. Also, Adam Peters talked about why it's so hard to evaluate quarterbacks entering the NFL. He said, quote, it's a lot easier to evaluate a defensive end than it is a quarterback, because there's so many things that go into a quarterback than what you just see on tape, unquote. And he said that the non-tape stuff is what matters just as much for the quarterbacks as the on-tape stuff. So again, like we just briefly talked about earlier, how they evaluate these quarterbacks off the field and like how they interact with players, their leadership, their work ethic and things like that. Why they made sure when they went to these pro days, they talked to coaches close to these guys. They even went to Notre Dame's pro day to talk to Jayden Daniels as offensive coordinator, because his offensive coordinator last year for LSU in 2023 is now the offensive coordinator for Notre Dame in 2024. So they had to go to Notre Dame's pro day to get some behind the scenes scoop on who Jayden Daniels is off the field as far as film study, work ethic, and things like that. Those things really matter. The tape matters a lot as well, but Adam Peters is letting it be known that the tape matters just as much, is probably equal to all of the other stuff as well, all of the intangibles off the field things like I've already listed, just to give you the heads up. So you can prefer whichever quarterback you prefer on tape, but again, if Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and those guys prefer another guy more so because of who they are off the field, don't be surprised that we end up taking that guy. Also, that lets you know that these meetings and taking these guys to Top Golf and all of these off the field things really do matter to them. At the very least, it matters to Adam Peters and the Commanders. Who knows if it matters to everybody in the NFL, but we know for a fact Adam Peters cares about that stuff, and that's all that matters in our case for the second overall pick. And then he was also asked about Top Golf specifically. He said that the Top Golf outing went really well. He said guys interacted with each other. They all got individual time with coaches as well. So let's emphasize that. I talked about that in my video yesterday. But not only did we have everybody coming at the same time, we had the Top Golf experience, but then guys also had the typical normal experience with having individual meetings with coaches and Adam Peters and those guys as well. So it was like a healthy mix of both. And then Newmark said, quote, "I thought it was a great experience. I came away with it very impressed with the process," unquote. And first of all, of course, it's great that everything seemed to go very well, even though some reports are coming out right now from the Jayden Daniels side of things, but none of these are really trustworthy sources are saying that maybe he didn't like it too much, and that's why he scheduled that Vikings meeting today, like immediately the day afterwards. And I already talked about in my video yesterday that the Vikings were reportedly struggling to find some time to meet with Jayden Daniels, and then suddenly after what some people perceive to be an awkward Top Golf experience, now Jayden Daniels is suddenly open to meeting with the Vikings. So who knows if that's really anything, if that's something or not, if there's any accurate reporting to that, but just I'm trying to give y'all all of the information I have and y'all come away with your own conclusions. But again, first of all, it's great that it seems that everybody had a great experience. Lance Newmark and Adam Peters, at least on their end, feel like everybody had a great experience, even including Jayden Daniels, which contradicts reporting that is coming out this morning. But also, what I take from that quote from Lance Newmark specifically is that Lance Newmark basically said that he's never seen or been a part of something like that, and he came away basically raving about it. He loved it. Basically, he's saying that the Lions have been tripping for not doing things like that while he was working with them for the past 20 years. They should have been doing these top 30 golf visits and Top Golf visits and things like that, bringing in several top 30 guys at the same time, all of that type of stuff. So I like the fact that Lance Newmark, his first time experiencing that, he loved it. He felt like this was a great idea. This is how the process should go. And he's a process-oriented guy. I mean, remember, Adam Peters literally brought him over from the Detroit Lions with the way that he organizes scouting guys at the combine specifically, and a lot of other things as well. But that was one of the things that Adam Peters really noted, that he does some of the best prep work for, as far as when we go to the combine, this is what we're looking for. This is how we're going to organize our notes and things like that. And so to impress a guy that process oriented with your own process is very noteworthy as well. And then quarterbacks specifically, Adam Peters was asked about the 4 quarterbacks together for a top 30 visit. He said, quote, "What's cool is we got to see them all together in a group setting. They all got a lot of time individually with coaches with us. They were staggered coming in too. It was a great blend of that. Everyone together in a fun environment," unquote. Again, Adam Peters loved it. And I want to also reemphasize the fact that he's already done this before with the 49ers. We are not the first team to do this. I want to make sure I update y'all on that. Teams have been doing this. There's a report that other teams have been taking players to Dave and Buster's before. Bill Belichick has brought in several guys for visits at the same time before. The 49ers themselves have taken prospects to Top Golf. Adam Peters even said it himself back with the 2022 draft when he was interviewed, just to give y'all that update if y'all missed that. And then also, moving on, the only thing that I've been thinking about more than which quarterback will take second overall is the possibility of us trading back up into the first round to get a franchise left tackle. That's just me personally as in Rico Street Scores. Outside of what we're going to do second overall, the thing I've been focused on the most and probably the thing that has kept me up the longest at night is what are we going to do at left tackle, and are we going to even try to trade up into the first round to get one? And he wasn't specifically asked about trading back up into the first round specifically, but as far as trading up in the draft in general, Adam Peters said, quote, "It's about the situation and what opportunities you have, and it's ultimately going to be what's best for your team." But remember, getting a tackle in the first round versus any other round in the draft is not only a big difference in talent, there's a reason that somebody went in the first round rather than any other round. There's just a presumed talent difference. But also, people forget about that fifth-year option that you only have the chance to use if you get a player in the first round. So say scenario-wise, in two different universes, we drafted an all-pro tackle in the second round in one universe and traded up into the first round to get an all-pro tackle in the first round in another universe. The second universe has the only Commanders team that can get away with paying that all-pro tackle cheap money for 5 years from now. You got to pay that second round guy in 4 years no matter what. So it's really a balance of, do you value the pick more, whatever picks we would have to spend to move up into the first round, or do you value future cap space more where you can delay having to pay that, hopefully best case scenario in both situations, you're getting an all pro tackle wherever you get them, first round or second round. Do you prefer to delay having to pay that guy another year where you can just pick up that fifth year option? It just completely depends on what you value more. I personally prefer to trade up for a tackle. If y'all are wondering my opinion, trade up to get the more talented guy, at least the more perceived talented guy. There's a reason that the guy's going in the first round rather than lasting all the way to the 36th overall pick. But you never know. The draft is a gamble. It's a crapshoot. But still, I prefer to go ahead and trade up and get a guy that you know that you love and that you can definitely see fitting your offensive scheme and that matches very well with the quarterback that you have. If you take a Jayden Daniels that likes to run a lot, hopefully you get a very mobile quarterback that can block for a long time and keep Jayden Daniels clean while he's doing all of that nonsense in the backfield and trying to make something shake with his legs and things like that. Also, Adam Peters discussed Josh Harris's involvement ahead of the draft. He said, quote, "He's been extremely supportive. If we needed something, he's been there to provide it for us. But I'd say that's the extent of it. He's been awesome about letting us do what we do." And so, shouts out to Rigo's Rag for tweeting, "Florio can put his tin hat away now." And I completely agree, man. That's hilarious because it does always seem like that Mike Florio's always trying to find the bad angle on anything that the Commanders do, even when there is no bad angle. He's been extremely judgmental of the several things that the Commanders have done this offseason, most notably this top 30 visit situation. He's done several different videos and reports on how bad the Top Golf thing was and bringing in all of these guys for the same visit and things like that. Remember, it was Florio's visit of him criticizing the Commanders that Jayden Daniels' agent left an emoji over, which started all of that drama. And now, most recently, Florio seems to hate how Josh Harris has also been in on some of the top 30 visits that we had with some of the meetings, especially with the quarterbacks. But now Adam Peters himself has come out and said that Josh Harris has not gotten away at all. So again, Mike Florio, you can sit down. You don't even have to worry about it, man. Just stop trying to find bad angles on us, man. Leave us alone, type of thing, man. And I don't know why, but people didn't really pay attention to it when Adam Peters said it. It didn't really go as viral as some of the other comments that we've already discussed. But Adam Peters was asked about taking a quarterback that may not be ready day one. He said, quote, "Just me personally, I don't want to pick a guy who's going to start in 3 years in the first round, but maybe you might have a little more patience in later rounds for something like that, especially depending on what you have on your team too," unquote. So with that, does that automatically rule out a guy like Drake May, who is seen as more of like a boomer bust prospect, high ceiling, low floor type of guy that may not be ready to start day one versus like a Jayden Daniels who can step in day one and you're immediately competitive? And while we're at it, does that also rule out like a JJ McCarthy with his limited amount of throws in college? Even though when you really look at the tape and the stats, he threw just as many passes as other quarterbacks in the first half of games, but just always played with a lead. And if you take out screen specifically, I believe he threw the most passes in the first half out of any quarterback in his class. I remember seeing that stat like, wow, that's actually pretty crazy. So I know a lot of us fans and like draft analysts and media members have our own general thoughts on what the top quarterbacks are, what their weaknesses and strengths are, boom or bust, low floor, high ceiling, low ceiling, and things like that. But if Adam Peters feels like Drake May can start day one, or even if he feels like Cliff Kingsbury can convince him and design the right offense to where Drake May can start day one and win you games day one, then Adam Peters will still take him. So regardless of what the general analysis of Drake May is about how he cannot start day one in most people's eyes right now, if Adam Peters feels like he can, then it doesn't matter. But he did say we're not spending a second overall pick on a project, basically, and I wouldn't. Why would you do that? I don't care how high the ceiling is compared to everybody else. Why would you take a guy with just absolutely no floor, a guy that you would have to sit for the next 2-3 years or at least a year with the second overall pick? That's something you do a little later, not second overall. So, but again, the argument against that, the rebuttal to that is, does Adam Peters even view Drake May as that type of guy? And he may not. I like Drake May. I prefer Jayden Daniels, but I like Drake May. I don't feel like he may not be day one ready, but I don't think it will necessarily take an entire year for him to be ready to start. But who knows? Also, moving on from that, Adam Peters talked about the offensive linemen in this draft class specifically. So when we're talking about trading up for tackle, he said this, quote, "I think it's pretty universally known it's a really good tackle class, deep tackle class. As you can see in a lot of the mock drafts, there's a ton of those guys coming off in the first round. We got a chance to visit with a lot of them and really at different levels. But yeah, we're really, really excited about that group," unquote. And first of all, the fact that Adam Peters even pays attention to mock drafts out there, I'm hoping he saw one of mine maybe. But also, I want to point out the fact that if Adam Peters truly does love how deep this offensive tackle class is, especially with his experience with finding Pro Bowlers and All Pros in every round of the draft, then that means that we are definitely less likely to trade up if he feels like he can still get an All Pro left tackle with the 36th or 40th overall picks. But I'm just hoping that he was keeping it political and surface level by just simply agreeing with the public opinion. Basically being like, well, that's how most people feel. I'm going to say that I feel the same way, so that, I agree with the masses. Nobody pays attention to what we actually really think and feel about the tackle class and things like that. Hopefully it's something like that. But from his quote, it sounds like we're less likely to trade up back into the first round for a tackle. But again, like I said, maybe he was just keeping it surface level and just agreeing with the public opinion, so nobody even pays attention to how he truly feels about the tackle class. Also, Adam Peters said that Doug Williams has been helping the personnel staff ahead of the draft. That's really interesting because Doug Williams was not doing that right before the end of Ron Rivera's tenure and things like that. So now Doug Williams apparently is going to have somewhat of some influence, some input on maybe who we end up drafting. And I know some people probably hate that. I know some people probably love it. I'm indifferent. I'm just curious to see how it all turns out. And before we move on to our recently unbanned player, Adam Peters also talked about how excited he is to have 6 top 100 picks in this upcoming draft. He said it's a big deal to have 6 picks in the top 100 of the draft. Really an opportunity to build, and there's a chance to make the football team better. So that lets you know that he's excited about having that many picks, and I don't know if that means he's excited to the point that he wants to use all 6 of those picks, or if he's excited about the fact that he has all of those picks, and then we can use some of those picks to do some movements, especially trading back up into the first. I don't know. You can look at it either way. He's keeping things very political. He's staying very ambiguous with his answers. And I'm just trying to give you both sides, both viewpoints of everything that he said is so far in this press conference. And like I've said before, a lot of smart football minds feel like there's a huge drop off in talent after the 3rd round. In really like every position except for wide receiver, because this is arguably the deepest wide receiver class I've ever seen personally since I've been really paying attention to football since like a teenager. But any other position, it's quite dark after that 3rd round. So if there's any draft in recent memory that having as many day 1 and 2 picks as possible is as great as is highly valuable, it's this one. We picked the perfect draft to have the most top 100 picks out of any team in the NFL. And you can look at it another way. With this perceived drop-off after the 3rd round, a lot of teams may value 2nd and 3rd round picks more than they normally do in other drafts. So if there were ever a draft to get a good deal for trading back up into the 1st round, it's probably this one. Our 2nd we have 2 seconds and our 3 third-round picks are probably valued higher than even the NFL draft trade charts have based on the history of how they value those picks and things like that. So my main point is, it may be more likely and easier for us to trade back up into the first round to get a starting left tackle in this draft, especially because of the perceived drop off in talent after the end of day 2 of the draft, after the end of round 3. And now, before we get up out of here, just to let you know, the NFL has officially reinstated Commanders defensive end Shaka Toney, who was suspended indefinitely for violating the league's gambling policy. The NFL reinstated 5 players in total. They reinstated former Lions wide receiver Quintez Cephas, safety CJ Moore, and defensive lineman Demetrius Taylor. And then, of course, our Shaka Toney and former Colts linebacker Rashad Berry. And so of the group, Shaka Toney was the only one that wasn't released and is now eligible to participate in offseason activities with Washington if we so choose to do so. But everybody else is a free agent. They have to find a team first. Shaka Toney is the only one out of those 5 players that were banned that is still currently on the NFL team. So now I'm interested to see if Adam Peters feels like Shaka Toney is worth keeping. As of right now, I guess he officially takes up one of those 91-man roster spots. Remember, because we have the international player from Nigeria. He's technically the 91st player. Shaka Toney now is one of the 90th players. So I don't know. Is it worth it? We brought in so many edge rushers now, and I'm pretty sure we're still going to want to draft an edge rusher. We're not going to depend on Shaka Toney to contribute mightily. We brought in the situational pass rusher, the guaranteed third and long, bring him in to disrupt the quarterback in Dante Fowler. I know he's a little bit older, but still, I mean, he's coming off of his most productive season at doing just that last year. He's never lived up to his draft hype of being like a 2nd overall pick a few years ago, but at least last year for Dallas, he's coming off of his best statistical season, especially on a per snap basis that he's had in his entire career. His trajectory is pointing up, and even though he's not a certified starter, the reason I'm bringing him up, because Dante Fowler, Cleveland Farrell, whoever we end up taking within the first 3 rounds to potentially be a heavy contributor or even starter at edge rusher for us, that are going to be more like run stoppers, but that can also go after the passer, rush the quarterback, and things like that. Shaka Toney is purely situational pass rusher, and we already addressed that need in free agency with Dante Fowler. Do they feel like they need another one with Shaka Toney? So we'll see. So yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Let me know if you feel like Shaka Toney is worth keeping. Do you want to give him another shot even after the gambling incident, even though we already signed multiple free agents at the same position that Shaka Toney plays? Let me know how you feel about all of that. And of course, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video that Adam Peters and Lance Newmark said, because there was some really deep quotables there. And again, I gave y'all the quote and I gave you both sides of what each quote could potentially mean. Let me know which side you are on some of those quotes as well. Like, do you feel like we're more likely to trade up for a left tackle? Do you feel like Adam Peters feels like Drake May is a guy that could start day 1, or at the very least very soon, even if it's not literally day 1? Let me know how you feel about everything that Adam Peters and Lance Newmark had to say in this video. Do you feel like they do already know which quarterback they're taking, and it's just a matter of time before we find out? Do you agree with me when I say that I believe, I mean, even us leaking who we want at quarterback right now, what could it potentially hurt us in any way? Let me know if there are some ways that it could hurt us that I'm maybe not thinking about. Let me know how you feel about all of that. And of course, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, I'm about to hit y'all with like 2-3 videos a day starting today. So stay tuned for another video coming out later on tonight. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.